As I walk through this wicked world, searching for light in the darkness of insanity, I ask myself, is all hope lost? Is there only pain and hatred and misery? And each time I feel like this inside, there's only one thing I want to know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? The Legion After Show starts now!
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
But what's so funny about having a full panel for the first time in the middle of the season, episode 5? Congratulations to us. Welcome to the Legion After Show. We are finally here.
The gang's all
together.
here.
Together again for the first time, reunited, and it feels so good. Christian Bladt here alongside Alana Jordan.
Hey, I'm here too.
And Alexa Cappielo.
What's up? I'm so excited to talk about this episode.
And Jeff, I didn't give you as fun a nickname, so just say hi.
What up, what up?
Yeah, that's good.
I was like, no, I'm good. She was all hyped. We ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm hyped.
We are ready to go.
I love this episode.
Look, here's
It's
the
great.
thing. The very different reactions and introductions and personalities, but that's because we are Legion. And
We are.
we can't all be the same.
can't.
It's not going to
We
work.
are
So we are definitely Legion. So I want to know, what did everybody think about the episode? Jeff, starting with you. Just overall thoughts on the episode, and then we'll really dive into it.
I thought this was a fun episode. It was a lot easier to like understand throughout the whole compared to last episode.
Sure.
But no, it was a great episode. And I like the parallels that happen in this episode compared to the first season. So I'm gonna kind of talk about that later in this episode.
Sure.
But I thought it was a really cool episode and fun to see the parallels.
Alexa Cappielo, what did you think?
I loved it. I thought this episode was awesome. I love the way it was written, and finally, David and Sid got a moment where they talked again, and I was like, Sid is setting him up. She's setting him up. She's setting him up. She's setting him up. It was so cool to watch.
Were you touched by that moment?
It was a bait and switch.
Ooh.
I mean,
There we go.
this is just... That was like back-to-back Your Mama jokes. I don't even, there's nothing that can compare to that.
You're welcome, and we're sorry.
So, yes, and Elena, what did you think of the episode on the whole?
I liked the episode a lot. I wasn't here last week, and I'll
We
be
noticed.
honest.
You weren't?
What?
You were at
In
one
this
place.
timeline.
Yeah.
But on
you go
other
back in time and you
timelines-
will have been
yes,
here
and I
and
will
we
have
won't have this
been
conversation.
here.
You're gonna fix
The
it.
first time I was on last week's show, I said that I loved it. You guys don't remember it because
Nope.
the second time, the more recent, I wasn't here.
Right.
I followed all of that, by the way.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because much like time, it doesn't have to be linear.
But what did you think? What did this Elena think of this episode?
I liked this episode not as much as I liked last episode because I liked that it was kind of a little choppier and non-linear, but I did like that we had some great callbacks and some good references this episode. I like where the story is going, and I like that we're getting some carnage, even though it may be temporary.
Yeah, I think that what we're getting to see is just how far gone David is. I continue 5 weeks into this season, 5 episodes into this season, to still be of the frame of mind that the Shadow King, being thousands of years older, is certainly the much worse guy. But David is making decisions that I think he would recommend. Like a past version of himself would be like, don't do this stuff. But he's at a point where he just thinks it doesn't matter. Like when Switch asks him at the end of the episode, wait, are they dead? Like, some of them or none of them. It's not really going to matter. And she even asks him, like, that doesn't bother you? And clearly it doesn't. And when you're so sure that you're going to go back and undo everything, he knows that Sid murdered him twice. In the season premiere. So he's like, well, that got undone, so this will all get undone. What were you going to say, Alexa?
Well, I mean, part of it is that, and part of it is that he's delusional now. I mean, I feel like he's setting up his own narrative, that he's the victim, and he's not really listening to any other, commentary on that. He's like, I'm the victim, I deserve love, I'm going to go after it, and that's it. And what's great about this show is that nobody is really inherently a good person. They're all basically people with good and bad, and that's what they're discussing. Really, is like what's good, what's bad. Everybody's in this like little like gray area, and it's really cool to watch, just like the morality unfold in every character too, not just David. But
it's cool to see how they're kind of hey there, how they're kind of subverting the stereotype of the superhero about how these people are powered. But the question keeps being like, it seems like the setup is the central dramatic question being, who is the true hero?
Right.
Whereas it seems like now in the final season, they're subverting the central dramatic question that we've had throughout the entire series and setting it up more as, okay, there is no true hero, because we've seen David as the hero. We've seen Farouk say, oh, now you're telling me that the villain is now the hero and the hero is the villain. We've seen Sid say flat out before she kills David or tries to kill David, that she believes she's the hero now because she's stopping the apocalypse and the inevitable. But everything that each of these characters are doing is setting up a self-fulfilling prophecy, and their own limitations and their own inability to see past their individual wants and needs is what's stifling the progress on everybody's end.
right?
So if there's no true hero, is there a true villain then?
No, because I think that's
I don't mean this, but it seems like the sort of pretentious thing people would say.
everybody's their own villain.
The true villain is us.
Yeah.
So yes, exactly.
Everybody's their own villain.
But
you know?
to some extent,
And
I
hero
don't.
at the same
I
time.
don't think everybody is a villain, but I think that everybody's playing a part.
Everybody can be a
Yeah,
villain.
they could be. I think
that's
in
what it's exploring, is like everybody can be a good person, everybody can be a bad person. Just depends on what you decide
And
to show in
showing
that
what
moment.
you're willing to be complicit in, which
Yeah.
we even see, paralleled with the actual Holocaust scenes that we get this episode, and how it's showing these real life parallels of people who are ostracized for political or demographic based beliefs, and then showing that that is something that they're directly representing, as you can be villainous just by being complicit in other people's villainous actions. By not trying to do everything you can to stop it, that does make you a villain.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Elena, do you think in the next timeline you're going to make sure that you don't spill any water on the desk?
That's part of it. Is actually, it's a ripple in time. It's a ripple in water. I'm just here for the ripples.
That was just for us. Thank you.
Get out of here, Brian Ryan.
Am I saying it wrong? What's
Right.
going on?
Ryan Adams. But what we see at the end of the previous episode, David declares that it's war. So we really hit the ground running in this one. And in case we didn't get the notion that he really is pretty far gone, as we were just talking about, there's, he basically walks through, well, the people on the motorcycles go through him and turn into glass and shatter. But there's a guy who's begging for his life, and David melts his face. That's the sort of nameless person who becomes a nameless, faceless person, unfortunately for them. But, there's not even any hesitation.
None.
There's no reason that you have to kill that person.
No.
And you don't even have to kill them in the most violent and sad way. Like someone's begging for their life.
Well, I disagree, because
let
if
me
you're
melt your face off.
gonna kill him, you might as well kill him right. No, but yeah, exactly. He doesn't. He does. He can make people go to sleep by like pointing at them. That's all he needs to do.
He's angry though.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah,
He's
you
angry. He's on a mission.
You stole my time traveler.
I want him back, die in the most horrible way possible.
Yeah,
But it also shows how he objectifies people to the point that it's like his toy got taken from him and he's angry. It's
Yeah.
not he's worried about her well-being at all.
I like that analogy too, because we even harkened back to it in like the last episode where we talked about how infantile David can get.
Yeah.
And he actually like throws tantrums. And there was a point where he was talking to Sid, and he actually got infantile as well. Yes, when he said, "I'm sorry, I'll fix it, I promise." Like his voice got, "I'm sorry, I'll fix it," like a little boy.
No, that's like when my 4-year-old tells me that he's going to start listening to me like right now, because I told him like we haven't been listening to me, so now you're not going to watch a video after dinner. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to start listening now," and I'm like, "Well, I needed you to listen to me before." And much like my 4-year-old, David gets to do whatever he wants, and David can watch videos anytime, basically.
But I love that too, that we keep seeing, the reference of the angriest boy in the world, this like story. And it's like, dude, this is you. Yep. This is just your, again, self-fulfilling prophecy, is you are just being this whiny little boy who it's looking like is going to
destroy the world.
Potentially kill his mom.
And I'll pitch this question to everyone in the chat, but let's go down the line in the panel. If you're determined, you have a mission like David does, and you're convinced that you're going to go back and undo everything, would you not worry about how many people you killed along the way? Jeff, you're already shaking your head, so I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I got to go with no, because you're still that person. So if you're gonna kill people, you're still that person, even if you save them. That means like you can't go back and just you can unkill them, but you're still that same person that killed them. You still have that same mindset. You still that same soul. So no, you can't do that. If you're the person that's killing them, then you're a bad person. That's just how I see it.
What do you think, Alexa? Would you make the same decision that David seems to make without any hesitation? And like, well, these people aren't going to stay dead, so I might as well get some killing in now.
No, because I'm not a sociopath. I care about people.
You heard it here first, by the way. That's actually news to me. I had no idea.
I wouldn't kill anyone, so I don't have
just like a sociopath would
right.
say.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm glad you. Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to. I agree with Jeff.
Look, there's a difference between to get specifically morbid. I mean, when Nazi soldiers originally were just doing firing lines and shooting people. That wasn't really a good time for that. Let's ease up on the sound effects, Jerry Springer. They used to shoot them, and then they're like, you know what? We're these awful people. We don't want to see these people that we're killing, and so that's when you come up with things like gas chambers and things like that. So the reason I bring that up, because David can kill people without really having the consequences, without seeing it. He can make all of his groupies disappear in a way of like, you killed them. No, I didn't. Wait, shit, did I kill everybody? No, they're just somewhere else. Wait, I think I might have killed them.
But again, I bring back the point where he doesn't. Again, he's rationalizing it in his brain or brains or whatever's going on in there.
A lot of brains. Yeah.
He's not actually killing these people.
Yeah,
temporarily. It probably hurt maybe a little bit, but don't worry, you're not going to feel it next time around.
What's interesting is like Sid has already blatantly pointed out to him exactly what you were saying, Jeff, is that even if you go back to fix it, even if you undo something, you still did it. I just don't remember it.
Right.
So your reality is that you've still committed these atrocities. You've just erased it from the minds of everyone else around you. And the person that you intrinsically are is going to remain despite what circumstances that you change around it. So, I mean, even David, he's looking these people in the eye. Mm-hmm. So even going back to your analogy of, the Nazi camps and everything, he is so far past that to him, this is almost like a video game. These aren't real people. This is all just a virtual reality that is going to have a do-over and a reset switch. So this round didn't count.
Right. I think that I'll sort of hedge my bets a little bit. I think I wouldn't kill with the reckless abandon that David is, but I think in certain situations you're like, this is going to be a lot easier if this person that doesn't, like just say anybody from the district, any of our recurring characters, if he felt like, I need to kill female Carrie now, but I'll make it up to her. She's trying to kill me. I'm going to kill her to stop her. It's going to be all right. She's not going to stay dead. I could see making that decision, but he is so far past that. He's melting faces. He's also people that he doesn't even kill. I guess that's Clark's partner. What is his name? Daniel?
Daniel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who is still alive, but now doesn't have any of his long-term memory. And so, in a way, that's worse because now he's like, do you know my name?
Basically catatonic.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And also then kills his partner. And so then there's not even the memory of
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the saddest things, because it's like, and they even reiterate, like,
yeah,
them
having him
on
watching the
two
sad
different.
movies.
Yeah,
sad
well,
home
even their
movies.
conversation just before of how great, like, their relationship is and how they want to be together. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, you're not going to remember that, and now he's dead in space. So.
Right. But as we were saying, as I said when we went to commercial after that, I know that they've tried to make us, they've tried to soften up Clarke, but I disliked him from season 1, and I can't say that I'm losing sleep over him.
Let me say, the only death that I really cared about was Lenny.
Yeah. Who is also, by the way, who's also a character. If you think about that, too, that's a character that we, at some point in the run of the series, probably felt like, oh, David's life would be better if he would just kill Lenny. But
Yeah,
then
but now she's
yeah.
become almost his like moral compass,
Yeah.
which shows you how far gone.
The
he's
only one
gone.
you care
I was
about,
gonna say,
though?
come
Yeah,
on.
of the
Come
of
on,
the
much
deaths.
like Clarke's body, that's too cold.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't really feel connection to the rest of
You
the
like that one,
characters.
that's all I
did.
care about.
That was good though. was good.
So let's bring the chat into this. Fandom D Saint points something out. The question is, do you even remember it once you change the past? So David's making these decisions, and
Ooh,
it
that's a
doesn't
good
seem
point.
like that, but does he on some level feel like, look, when I go back in time and change everything, I'm not going to know
But
that I
it
did all
doesn't
this.
matter whether or not he knows it. It's just the
Right.
question is he a good person? And that
But
is
he would feel like he's a good person if he didn't know that he did all this killing. In theory. Like, he's going to think he's a good person. He's not going to have to struggle with, I accomplished my goal, but boy, I killed a lot of people along the way.
But even if you think you're a good person, you're still that same person that did it. Even if you don't know you did
You
it.
know what you're capable of
Yeah.
because
That-
you're doing it now.
Yeah.
So it means in another timeline you could also be capable of those same atrocities.
Exactly.
right.
Will316 points out, once you declare war, rules and feelings go out the window. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're still trying to
I
hold
don't
on
know.
to
I feel
David's
like
humanity.
isn't war based on rules and feelings specifically? Like isn't
I
that
mean,
like the two intrinsic parts of war? Is
I
that
mean,
it's like
all right, Miss Geneva Convention. That's not the way that wars happen now, though. You know, those are the old kind of wars. You know, where you can.
I mean, there's still like there's war crimes that exist.
yeah,
There are rules and structures when you're in war, and war is incited by emotion and feeling. So I feel like that's basically two things can be true.
it can be true. And Jenna James wants to know, why did they turn Autonomy into a robot? Didn't he die? Isn't
He
that why
died,
it's a robot?
and they
Right.
uploaded his brain into
Yeah.
the mainframe. That happened last season.
I think that was just a way that they probably like the actor, and like, let's figure out a way to keep him around.
Keep him around.
Nobody who's dead ever really dies. I actually love that he said that because I was like, that's the most Marvel statement I think I've ever
Yes.
heard. It's
That
like,
is.
they're back, baby.
So many people came back to life in this show in particular too.
Right,
As well.
yeah.
Nobody. I mean, I don't know. Do you all think Lenny's actually dead? Because I think she is. I don't think
I
she's
think
coming
she is.
back.
No, she's coming back.
Well, she's been dead before.
I know.
And I think that she just killed David's sister's body, so thanks for doing that again,
Yeah.
Lenny. But I think that he'll still be able to interact with her consciousness. I don't
Yeah.
think that her, like, you'll be able to find her in the astral plane
Yeah.
forever, basically. Like, she's not going to be gone. So we'll get more Aubrey Plaza this season.
Good, because I like her.
Yes.
Same.
100%. It's again in Marvel. It's like we paid for these actors. We're getting them, man. Like nobody really did. Don't worry about it.
When you're a series regular, you get paid for every episode, whether you're in it or not. So
So you're showing up to work, Aubrey.
So I'm gonna say maybe we don't see her next week. So somebody in the chat said, and I was trying to find the answer to this, and I'll see what the panel thinks, that there's only 3 more episodes. I thought this was a 10-episode season, and someone in the chat seems to think
It's
it's an
8.
8-episode season.
Oh,
so
wow.
It is 8.
so it's really sad that we are only getting a full panel on episode 5. I thought that there were 10.
I thought
I
there
thought we
was
were
too.
going until Labor Day. So
Nope. Next
apparently,
week is the anti-penultimate episode.
the anti-penultimate. Yes,
That is actually-
and then the week after is the penultimate.
Yes.
And then-
I'm not gonna lie, I was not ready for this.
yeah. So
Well, that's normally the anti-penultimate episode is the best episode.
well, I mean,
In my
if you're talking about The
opinion. Oh, I was gonna
Sopranos,
say.
absolutely. But
For a lot of series, I think for the very, very last season, that tends
Well,
to be the case
well,
because
next-
then you
the-
have a 2 episode denouement.
Yeah, the second to last episode of Lost sure was better than the series finale, but we don't have time to talk about that. There's so much more to talk about. We really don't have
really
time for
good.
that again. We really don't have time
Breaking
for that.
Bad.
I'm sorry.
Just as typed
Ozymandias.
up.
Ozymandias, yeah.
What up, Brian Ryan?
Yeah.
What up, Brian? Right? So I wanted to talk about Switch for a moment because
Switching topics.
yeah, I would love to switch topics to Switch. And, if this were a different time, we could all go ahead.
punched in the mouth.
I would have the Switch to use for that. No, but it's a different time. It's not now. I would never do that.
No, but let's talk about Switch because
Let's talk about Switch.
what I want to ask everyone here and the chat as well is why
How did you have a Walkman with cassette player? Yeah, thank you for asking that because oh no, that wasn't it.
Nope, that
Okay.
wasn't it.
Okay,
But I
really
do
thought
want to
it was.
ask why is she still sticking with David? I have a theory, and that theory is that she doesn't seem to have gotten a lot of love or human connection. I like that her dad's in a TV and she's communicating to a TV.
Jeff shook his head during that dinner scene. By the way, he's
Like, but
pass me
why?
the potatoes.
Why is she
Get
with,
out of
why
here,
is she
potato.
with David? She's with David. Why?
Well,
What's her
I think
MO
I think
here?
you're absolutely right because when male Carrie, said that he was there to rescue her, she was like, "You're here to save me." So it was like somebody was showing her affection of any kind, and so she was like, "Oh, that's great." And then David came to rescue her a different time. And she's like, "Yeah, I had really weird dreams." So I think.
She
Look,
just seems so
she wants-
lost,
she
and
wants-
it's just like I'll do whatever.
She wants love from
anybody
daddy, and that's not
needs from
coming.
me.
So if
So,
you
I
can't
guess-
be with the one you love the one you're with.
So she can't be
she's
with
a-
daddy. So she'll be with daddy.
Daddy, yes. Oh,
She's
God.
a squeaky from, basically.
Wow.
Like 100%.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. It's like it's the stereotypical. I mean, we see all of the women that fall into these cult patterns. Is that
Yeah.
everything on this show is a direct parallel to actual occurrences in history, and we've seen so many of these cult leaders that lure in these broken, fragile women, and she's one of them. She just happens to be the powered one, so she feels extra special because she's needed.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like they spent enough time with that.
Wow, she could spend-
exploring
Wow,
that.
you just got excited by your own
that was
accidental
a total
pun.
mistake, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I wish they would explore that a little bit more. I mean, I know they already shot it, and we're gonna get what we got, but regardless,
Well, this is what you're
you know?
hoping to see on
Yeah,
film.
I want to
though.
see
Yeah.
a little bit more of Switch and what makes her tick, so to speak.
Yeah,
Like,
we see her kind of like being on both sides, kind of. Just
Yeah.
like she's being okay with being on both sides.
Yeah, she's
Do you-
complacent, really.
Do you
it
think
seems.
that she's gonna pick a side by the end of this and kind of turn the tables and be the deciding factor?
Ooh, is she going to stand up for what she believes in as opposed to what is expected of
Yeah.
her?
I
Or
feel like-
all of her teeth gonna fall out.
Or is she just going to be like,
Yeah, I do think she's not gonna have any teeth left. But,
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I did like that she had in her little dream. She had the little wind
she's
up
a little
toy
wind-up
thing.
toy.
Yeah.
Which is really what it comes down to. Is
Yeah. She's
just
a little wind-up
yeah,
toy
she-
doing whatever.
and wind her like a little clock.
Yeah.
so.
That was
yeah,
really cool.
That was
the visuals.
really
Yeah, I mean
cool.
there were a lot. So
I just want a copy of the rules of time travel.
yeah, I
Me
would
too.
like to have that.
That's
on
what
the-
I've been
yeah.
asking for this whole
just
time is
love
what are
it.
the rules here?
Well,
Can we...
But
well,
how sad
What
was
addition
that,
do you want?
too?
Because there's so many additions to the rules of time travel.
Well, one of the important questions that is asked as part of the rules of time travel in this episode is what comfort can a time traveler have in a moment knowing that everything that exists will end? And that's really what this whole episode is about. That's
Yeah.
David's belief. So for her, it's like, you can't enjoy everything because you know that it's not going to actually happen. You know, whatever you do can be undone, and you're the one that can undo it. You know, so I think that it would be great if we could have the rules of time travel printed out in a nice little laminated card, and we could all look in case when we time travel, we'll know like, oh, we probably shouldn't do this, and we probably shouldn't do that.
But I love that message
yeah.
too. Is that this is clearly like one of the morality messages that they're incorporating is that if you're not living in the moment, then
Yeah.
you're selling yourself short. And the loneliest people in the world are the people who are either so stuck in the past or so anxious of the future that
Yeah.
they're eaten alive by their own time demons.
And-
It's the most beautiful metaphor.
And that's why we're going to get drunk on the panel next week, because it's not going to matter in the end.
Exactly.
No matter what we say or do,
And we
it's gonna be
also
fine.
won't remember it.
We won't remember
so it's
it.
fine.
It's
I feel like I'll understand the episode more if I do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if there were a Legion drinking game,
Every
Legion
time
drinking
somebody
game.
says "daddy," every time David makes somebody's head explode.
We'll do one for the after show too. If you spill your drink, you have to
take a
finish it.
I wanted to make sure that we talked about Farouk, because
yes.
his patience is starting to finally wear thin, because he has this elaborate chess game where he's ready to basically take on David and take him out, and whatever it is that his plan ultimately is, despite the fact that he, of course, I could never hate you, it'd be like hating myself. And I'm like, well, you probably do hate yourself, by the way. And they did, so the district, everybody disagrees with him. So what does he do is he tells David how to come find him.
I know.
And I was just like, well, that's one move. But it does get him what he wants, and David is on the ship. It doesn't go the way he wants it to, but let's not talk about that part. I wanted to know what everybody thinks about Farouk just basically, completely discarding the rule book. And
I disagree with you that everybody disagreed with him. I think Sid agreed with him, which is why she said, let's go to space.
Right.
So that they can lure him there, and
You're
that
right.
she could have a face-off with him, which is what he asked of her in the first place. He said, Sid, you need to face off with him, get in there and make him trust you so that you can switch bodies and all this
Right.
stuff. So I think she did listen to him.
Right.
Everybody
ship
else
is
But
was
it
like,
seemed,
fan.
it seemed like she was the one who agreed with him. So when I said everybody, I mean
Oh,
the
okay.
majority didn't want to listen, so
Sorry.
he got upset.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, I'm just going to tell David we're here. What did you think about that, Elena? That Farouk is just like, hey, come find us.
I feel like it's exactly what we expected. Farouk has been doing villainous things, and what we seem to have as the overarching morality message, the moral of the story, is that when you're so self-centered and you don't take into consideration other people's opinions and other people's realities, and you lack this empathy, then that's what makes you so villainous. And so this is what shows us as the audience that Farouk really is a true villain, is that he's willing to put everybody else at risk because he didn't like their plan.
Yeah, it also begs the question, Jeff, why does he need anybody to help him? Like, it's almost like, if you're not going to listen to me, why are you even here,
He definitely needs them, because every time he goes after David, he's not winning. So he definitely needs them. But like, I was kind of frustrated, or I was frustrated at myself because I was surprised. I was like, why? Looking back, I was like, why was I surprised that he double crossed the people he was with?
Right.
And like you said, he's a villain. That's what villains do. And I was just like, that's what he should have did. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, look, this is a guy who's been a villain since like before the time of Jesus. Whether you believe in it, that's not the point. So him being a villain goes back to BC. So clearly, that's going to be his default. He's going to come back around to it.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate.
The
here.
Farouk's advocate. Go ahead.
The demon's advocate.
Yes.
Yeah, the time demon.
Yes. I'm going to say that it's beyond him being a villain. I think that every single character here, even Farouk, the time-old demon that's been here since Jesus, also has feelings and emotions and a moral compass, and actually does care about David. I'm going to say that he's been inside of David's head since David was a boy.
Yeah.
Seen him grow up, felt all of his emotions. He has a connection to David. I believe that Farouk cares about him and doesn't want to see him, A, destroy himself, and B, destroy the world.
I think
That's what I'm going to say.
I think he cares about David. I don't think he gives a crap about anybody else.
No,
on the
nobody
ship, though.
else. Nobody else.
So,
just David.
I think he cares about David in a very specific way. He cares about David as a tool to use against Charles Xavier, who is the only person in thousands of years who's embarrassed him and
Bingo.
beaten him in any way.
Bingo.
So he doesn't actually care about David. He needs David to be
He
alive
cares
to
about
use
him like David cares about Switch.
Right. That's a perfect.
You think
that's a
so?
perfect
You think
metaphor.
it's
Yeah.
just totally
Yeah.
using, but no.
I think he could have moments where he tries to convince himself that he cares, but I think ultimately, no, people don't matter to the Shadow King. I mean, he moves on from people. Like the comic book version, there's a young girl who's one of the New Mutants. Her name is Karma. He basically possesses her at one point, and what he does is he doesn't care, and he eats until she becomes like 300 pounds, and he sits around in this disgusting body,
Interesting.
and then he leaves her because he's like,
Interesting.
well, this is no good anymore. So that is a very specific comic book reference, but this is that character, and that's
Interesting.
what he thinks of people.
Okay.
They don't mean anything to him.
That's cool,
Yeah.
but I also feel like the more interesting choice in this universe that we're in right
Yeah.
now is to have him actually have feelings for
I
David.
think that would be a really interesting choice, and
But
it would it would be impressive.
I'm wondering because I'm watching it and I thought, okay, he could just be the villain here, or he could actually care about him a little bit, and I would like to see the second one, but I can agree with you.
No, I think-
I think it's intentionally layered, but that is, another theme that they keep coming back to is like this sense of love versus this sense of using somebody for a purpose.
Right.
And like how can a parasite truly love a host?
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and I'm wondering if anybody else feels this way, if I'm the only one.
I
Where
think this episode, specifically they even reference it where he's like, you are my son, and
Yeah.
he's like, and you are my cancer.
yeah.
So I think it's both ways.
Yeah.
Like kind of a mixture of what we all been saying, but it's like he cares about him because he's been with him for so long. But at the end of the day, he has a goal. So like he cares about him to an extent, and I feel like that extent is if you get in the way, I'm gonna take you out. But I still care about you. So it's a little bit of a mixture of both because I do agree that he cares about him, but he's still a villain at the end of the day. So it's to an extent.
I can't wait till they face off, like really face off.
Yeah.
You
In the chat, Black Raspberry Production points out, I'm starting to get the feeling that this show won't end with a climax of a happy ending. Just a feeling. I mean, it will not be a happy ending.
It's not going to
There'll
be
be
a
nothing
happy
happy about the
ending.
way
There
it
will be
ends.
nothing happy about this.
No one will be happy.
No
and,
one.
And if it's all in David's mind and he's sitting back in episode 1 of season 1, I'm going to be incredibly unhappy and angry as I talk about every week on the show. I'm trying to will it out of existence if that's what's already been shot. Before we run out of time, which we're in danger
See,
of.
we can't do this in this a
I
lot
know.
of time.
We need to have an after show that's like 3
Switch.
times the length.
Where are you?
Yeah. Can we just do this
Take
again?
it back.
But before we get to a special segment and any of that stuff, we need to talk about this interaction between David and Sid. We only referenced it in passing.
yes.
And that's such an important part of this episode, especially what happens afterwards. So, Jeff, I'll go to you first. Were you surprised that she was playing him up until the point where she finally gets a chance to just touch him and try to switch bodies with him?
I wasn't surprised. I was happy. When I first saw the interaction, when she was sitting down still, I was like, please do not play the victim card. Or just
Right.
like the innocent, like just go
Sure.
along with it. And then when she started talking to him more, I kind of I was happy because she actually went along with the plan that she talked to Farouk about. Well, more or less her plan because Farouk didn't want that. But no, I was happy to see that happen. It was a great interaction. And then obviously it backfired on her, but it was cool to see the I Am Legion part of that take over.
We'll get to that
cool.
in a second, but I'm wondering, Alexa, do you here's what I think. I think that it was very smart that she told him where Switch was, because I think that really disarmed him. Like, wait, because they totally
Trust.
lost his concentration.
Trust.
He's like, why would you tell me that? He was
gained
so
his trust.
focused. It was war. Yeah. So I think that was a very smart, calculated move. But what do you think about her tactics in general, that get close enough to just he just needed to lose his guard for basically a second, and she had to touch him. So what did you think?
I thought it was brilliant. I loved watching her do that. I mean, I knew what was happening all along. I
Yeah.
saw it. But only because I feel like I've seen Sid grow a lot, and I've seen her become a lot stronger. And it was just cool. It was cool to see her face off with David and use him the way he used her.
Yeah, do you echo that sentiment, Elena?
Yeah, I thought that it was definitely a very well calculated plan. And after seeing her interact with her younger self and that whole big speech about, you know, like being turned around and like the power moves and everything, and then having that reference, it's like it was her trying to take back the power, trying to turn back the situation, and kind of disarm him by making him think, I mean, by playing into what narcissists is the one weakness, is the belief that everyone also sees them as this god, this iconic figure, and she knew how to manipulate him because she did truly love him. So there's all these layers to that scene too that I just thought was very, very well done and very well executed.
Yeah, you could see the love too. That was real sad to watch. You know, them basically say how much they loved each other, but she had to take him down. You have to, and he's going crazy and gonna destroy the world.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about what then happens next, and then we get the introduction of the We Are Legion, and the Legion of David.
Finally, he says we are Legion. That was so cool.
Is clearly the case, and she was able to overpower one David, but not a legion of them. So, Elena, give me your reaction to watching sort of all those Davids kind of descend upon her and, well, basically have her lose her mind and put her away in a box somewhere.
I mean, that was rough, but it basically just solidified what we knew about David, is that he's so far gone at this point that it's like, look, dude, the little Davids in your brain are broken, man. Like, they're convincing themselves that, and it's, you see tangibly him convincing himself and all of these different fragmented parts of himself, making him think that he's doing the right thing, which is what's so heartbreaking, is that he doesn't see himself as a villain in any terms, as he still thinks he's the hero, and he still thinks he's saving Sid by basically stripping her of her entire mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's finally we get, I mean, we've been in his mind before, but I felt like this was the time that we saw him at his most vulnerable.
Yeah.
We actually saw every single personality that he's ever had all just descending upon Sid, and it was frightening and heartbreaking to see just how effed up he is, you know, how many personalities he has.
Well, it also shows just how easily he could be replaced by one of the other ones.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he is usually in control, but in that moment, because he's so vulnerable, I mean, it's like, oh, I mean, we're all here. You know, which one of us gets to take charge, you know, for a little while.
So many, too. They were actually a legion.
Yeah, there was an actual legion.
It was.
Of
personalities.
A crazy Jane type scenario, but without any indicator of who is who. They're just all David. They're all Legion, and they're all effed.
So we'll see what happens next week. I did like Switch's tactic to basically sneak up behind Farouk and open the little portal, and he fought the good fight. You know, he actually almost got back through, which I thought was interesting, because it's, you know, it's good to remind us that he is
the Shadow King.
And he is incredibly powerful. Just David is able to kind of nudge him a little bit more because he's a Legion, I think. But to put him back sort of in that space between time that we saw last week, which was basically the still photographs. You know, and where we go from here, where we go back to, that was literally the end of the episode. And I was like, I was ready to fast forward to go to the next segment, and I'm like, oh, we ran out of time. But I wanted to see that right now.
Where is he going to go in place of...
He says it's a quick trip.
Yeah.
And Switch warns him that the time demons will be there, but
and this time they won't stop.
This is a great time to...
You know what time it is on the clock when the time demons show up?
What time is it when the time demons show up?
2:30.
Because I knew where you were going. 2:30.
That was a joke. You're welcome. It was delightful.
It took me a second to get it, and I got it, and then I went,
you'll only get that here. Before that,
jokes.
what I was about to say was that this is a perfect time for us to get to predictions for next week as to this very specific prediction. Where do you think they're going back to?
Prediction.
Where do you think they're going back to, Jeff?
I think they're going back to well, we see they're going back to Sid. I think he's gonna try and like manipulate Sid somehow. I don't know why or for what reason, but I feel like he's gonna try and manipulate Sid and try to have her mindset so he can or she can be on his side. So I don't really see why that's his choice, but in the trailer for next week, that's why we see him go.
Right. What do you think, Alexa? Where do you think he's headed to?
I mean, basically along the same lines, we do see in the prediction for next week or whatever, the trailer for next preview for next week, we saw her as a baby and
and Melanie and Oliver are going to be the ones that we think we know her from before.
Yeah, so maybe he tries to take her from the situation that she was living in with her mother and put her in a different situation entirely. Maybe with Melanie. Who knows? But I think he's going to try to alter her past as opposed to his own.
Which is interesting because this was the episode where I was trying to remember, like, what happened to Melanie and Oliver? Like, where have they been? I don't remember now.
Yeah,
so.
They're in that little frozen space.
Right, that's what I thought. Was I'm ready for them to come back. So, where do you
Oliver
think?
misses the girl who kicks.
Right. Where do you think
everyone.
that David has switched taking him to?
I think 100%. Yeah, he's gonna go try to change Sid's timeline, and I think that she inadvertently put the idea in his head when she was saying, "Look, but if you go back, then we'll never love each other. We'll never meet. We'll never."
Bingo.
And I think that's when he went, "Oh, that's great." And it goes back to the whole: is it better to have never have loved than to have loved and lost?
Yeah.
And so I think in David's mind, he's saying, okay, this is a relationship I can't control. This is true emotion, and I see that as weakness. The way to cut this emotion out, this cancer that he feels, we're, going back to the whole emotion versus parasitic nature. He sees it as a hindrance, and he's going to go try to...
Really? Because I feel like he's doing this to potentially, like he thinks that he'll be able to meet Sid again and they'll fall in love in a different scenario, potentially.
So you're thinking
Maybe.
you think he's watching the NBC comedy The Good Place, where that's basically the whole idea for season.
But this time he can control it.
All I know is that he's driven by he thinks he's driven by love here. He's trying
he thinks that love will conquer all, and that
But
they'll
to
find
him,
each other.
control is love, because that's the way that narcissistic personality disorder works. So this is him saying, okay, if I can go back and control everything, then that is true love.
And outside the box prediction from Jenna James, maybe back to when Farouk first met Xavier. We've already gone a little bit long. One thing I want to do is, I guess we have some photos to share, and then also
news and gossip.
I guess you're not going to see it real well, but this is the back of Elena's phone. See, I did it. Lana Turner's phone.
Call me different people in different
this cool
timelines.
Legion
She
case
got
for
it
those
from Comic-Con.
for those watching on YouTube.
And a tiny, tiny sticker that you definitely can't
so
see.
here you are with, what is it? Is it the Legion phone booth? The Legion
that
TARDIS?
is, the Legion TARDIS. They have this weird crossover with Doctor Who. No, it was just the FX Fearless Forum that they set up was kind of a little celebration of all the FX shows. And this is what Legion got, was just that one little poster. So I took several pictures in front of it to make it seem like it was more. But they did give us this, so that was a delight.
That's dope.
There was different options, and apparently they had a lot of these left, so I should have just asked if they could give me more. But
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, but
Thank
it's
you.
fine.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said what we're all thinking. Ryan, don't play the drop, but very quickly, Jeff, is this real life? Is this just fantasy? What was the moment that you wanted to isolate there?
That was when Lenny killed herself.
Oh, that was mine too. Okay, so we both have the same one.
Yep.
So, did you have one, Alexa, where you're like, wait, did this really happen or did this not?
I mean, same, #same, but then also when he made all of his fans, his
that was
fans,
mine, yeah.
Poof,
So you guys, so we had the same. So the boys had the same one and the girls had the same one.
Yep.
Look at us, aren't we adorable?
We are.
Anyway, we are indeed also out of time. In addition to being adorable, but thank you to everyone in the chat, and we will be back next Monday at 9 Pacific I almost said the wrong time.
Time is meaningless.
It's also true. Yeah, tune in whenever you want. It doesn't matter. You'll just have to watch it again at some point. But until then, Jeff, where do people find you?
At JeffWill_Jr. on all your social media platforms.
Alexa Cappy, where do people find you?
At Alexa Cappy on Instagram.
And Alana, Helena, where do people find you?
You find me at Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at Alana J Jordan. Because let's just switch
let's
it
just
up.
do
Why
it.
not?
And you can
Also,
find-
I was at. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was at Comic-Con and I did some panels and some cool stuff. So talk to me about it on the internet.
Talk to her about how cool she is. Some of us were home. We weren't cool. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And in mere moments on AfterBuzz TV, we'll be doing a special. I don't know if it's Star Trek Weekly. I don't know what it is, but we're going to react to the Picard trailer. So look for that somewhere on AfterBuzz in mere minutes. I think it's going to be under Star Trek Weekly, but just look for Star Trek AfterBuzz. You're going to see that. Anyway, see everybody next week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.